I'm going to give us a couple more minutes to get going here. Well, we hit midweek. How's everybody doing?
Oh, I'm exhausted, sir.
Exhausted's the word. I've had 2 tests already, 1 more to go.
That's okay. So we don't have a project this week, so I should be giving you guys a break to make you feel better, to kind of get through some of the other things you got going. I did post the data set that we'll be using on the next project, so you can take a look at it. It's in a spreadsheet. And then we're going to do the critical path analysis next week, and the following week we're going to do the that'll be 50 points, and then the Gantt chart, and that'll be 100 points. So you can pick up 150 points towards your grade over the next couple weeks in the class. A lot of you are doing really well in the class, and I'm very pleased. I've got some of you that are struggling a little bit. That's okay. You got a chance to pull those grades up. We can get you where you need to be. And I think we can do okay. I did not post the video from Monday. It's because I don't know why, when I got to talking to you guys, I forgot to hit the record button. So I apologize for that. What do you got planned for the weekend coming up? Anybody have plans at all?
I'm working.
You're working. Okay.
Yep,
I
same here.
might go to Nashville. I ain't sure yet. Depends on my workload, how I do.
No.
My mother's down there, so I want to go down and see her. So if I can get my work caught up, I'm going to run down there.
Yeah, I have 2 destination weddings that we were supposed to go to in November, but we've canceled we're not going to go to them. One was in Dallas, Texas, and I'm not getting on an airplane right now. It makes, if you looked at pictures of people on an airplane sitting next to each other this far apart and they're all wearing masks, and I'm going, that's useless. So I have, I was going to drive, and then after I developed the heart issue, I decided to not even take a risk with that. So kind of go from there. We'll be sticking close to home. Got a number of projects I'm working on. I'm putting up new casings around the doors and windows, and then I'll be putting in crown molding, new crown molding in the house.
Hey, I watched one of your videos from this dusty old workshop. That's great.
Yeah. That was for the kids. When the kids were, I was trying to really help out families, and I have a number of nieces and nephews. So I did 10 of those videos, if I remember correctly, just teaching basic knot tying. I do that for the scouts in the region. They invite me to come and teach knot tying for the council, for the whole region. And on a weekend, I'll have 300 people who come through my station. I'm usually have no voice left after that weekend for a day or two. And I do it twice a year at Camp Davy Crockett down here in Rogersville. And then I visit troops and packs and go around and do that. So, and then I got a call from the council. They want me to apply my management skills to help them develop some strategic plans. And so I will, not referee, it's not the right word, maybe it is, facilitate their development of some strategic plans for them. All right, so I'm gonna flip this up so that the recording will come out better. I hate it because I only get to see you guys one way. Let's pin the video. Okay, all right, so tell me what you know about the product life cycle. We talked about it briefly in the past, but let's start thinking about it in more detail. So there are 4 regions on the product life cycle. Anybody know what they are, or one of them?
Like product introduction.
Product introduction is the first one. Okay, what's next?
Growth.
Growth, okay.
You got maturity and decline.
Maturity and decline. All right, so those, and you see a general curve where it goes up and it comes down. If you look it up on the internet, you can quickly look at that and see what that looks like. It is an essential understanding of how a product lives, and it does live. It's born, it grows, it matures, and it dies. Every product goes through this cycle. Not only products, but organizations do too. And so this whole product life cycle affects not only, and we're talking about this in operations management, but it also applies to marketing. It applies to general management, how you're going to deal with a diversification of your products. As your product ages in the process, you have to make adjustments. You have to make investments in the introduction phase and in the growth phase. And then you actually have to contract during the declining phase. You will see the product life cycle on a test coming up, and you need to be able to discuss operations management issues in each of those areas. So that comes out of chapter 5 in your book, if you don't remember. You need to be able to generally discuss it. You need to be able to chart it, draw it. And when you get into business, I need you to be able to actually apply this to your products. It has to do with how you price products. You know, in that early phase, the prices are very expensive. You have no competitors. You've had a high investment cost at this point. When you go into the growth phase, you've got a lot of expenses going on because you're investing in facilities, production capabilities, in suppliers. You're still investing a lot in that growth phase. Time you get to the maturity phase, your volume goes up dramatically. Your prices generally fall because competitors enter the market. And then in the declining phase, your margins are very low and you are being pushed to a point where you say it's no longer of value producing this product and we're going to pull it from the market. That's the general things that are going on. And so you need to be able to talk about that, review Chapter 5 on that very issue. This also applies to services, not products. I use this as a generalized term, but products also applies to services, that they need to be updated. If you're providing a service that nobody else is providing, that's great. And then you're waiting for competitors to come in, and they're going to come in at a lower price because they're trying to undercut the leader in the market. And so you're going along those lines. And if you're one of those producing one of those alternate products, then you've got, your curve is going to have a much shorter lifespan than the initial product that you're trying to copy. When we talk about marketing in general, my camera's up way too high, guys. I'm going to see if I can get it to go down a little bit. There we go. In marketing, we know who our customers are, right? Who they are. All right. In operations, who are your customers?
Say different departments and employees of the firm.
Well, give me some examples.
I would say like the people who run inventory, the people who are working on the production line as well, helping them make it more efficient, streamline it. The people we're supplying the products and or products out to distribute as well.
Well, that would be your external inventory. Yes.
Extra.
Your finished goods, running that. And depending upon how quality control is run, you're kind of going through the system saying, who is it that's important to me to, or my organization to run the business? Who is it that I have to maintain good relations with in order to run the business? That's critical. And this is where office politics oftentimes comes into things. And you have to be able to reach out and identify who those people are so that you can comfortably manage your business. You have to manage those relationships. It's essential that you develop an appreciation for the work of others. It's essential you develop, and you'll hear me talk about this, the one reason that biases make no sense is because we're all created by God and we're equal in His eyes. We're not equal in ability, but we're equal of value to Him. And everyone should be of equal value to you as you're working with people. You have personality conflicts that develop, you have a bad day, or they have a bad day, and you have to learn to understand that sometimes people have bad days and they are not your enemy. There's a lot of immaturity that's brought into the workplace because people think they must have their own way, or they're not looking out what's best for the whole company as a whole. They're too focused on just their area. So when you move on to take Management 408, what we're trying to get you to do is to develop a bigger view of the company, rather than in operations, we're on a very narrow area. In accounting, you're on a very narrow area. Finance is a very narrow area. Marketing is a very narrow area. And so in 408, we're trying to get you to bring all these together to see it from a higher managerial view and understanding of how the company operates. People who have not been through a business program truly struggle in understanding how all of these areas relate together and the value that each brings to that. So you also then, if you're not maintaining these good relationships, so when you need help, when you need someone to do you a special favor, they don't work for you, but you need something from them. Oftentimes you only have your personality to get them to do something for you, your leadership ability, your the power of your personality to encourage them to help you, to beg them to help you, if need be sometimes. And people are willing to do that if they believe that your heart is good, you have good intentions, and that you have the best interest of the company at heart. If they can't answer all of those in the negative, they generally won't help you. It's essential that you learn to get favors from one another. And sometimes you get favors by doing favors. So for instance, every year when we would do inventory, and I was in operations, I would go help with inventory. One, it's very manpower intensive. And it would usually take about 3 days to do. And I would go and I would actually bring some of my people to help out. And the individuals over inventory control, which in reality is the CFO, were very appreciative that we brought those resources, we make those resources available so that they could get their jobs done more easily. Trying to understand the difficulties that other people have in their jobs and how you can help eliminate some of those problems by things that you do make people very appreciative of it. Sometimes you have to remind them that you've been doing that, but they're generally very appreciative for you trying to help them and make their lives easier. That helps you maintain good relations as you're navigating these waters of politics within a company. Okay, so of course your customers are your normal customers, people who buy your goods. Your customers are people who are relying on your services or actions to accomplish their job. And if you don't do your job, their job becomes difficult. So if you're over inventory control and finished goods and you're shipping product out and you're not sending all the correct paperwork to accounting so that they can bill the customers, they're not going to be happy with it. If you're not scanning all the product correctly so that all the quality control documents can get documented, quality is going to be unhappy about it because they lose traceability, and that affects the organization for ISO 9000 or ISO 9000 or not 14,000 for the environmental side of it. And so it becomes critical that you not only meet the expectations of what you're supposed to do, the procedures you should follow, so that the people who are receiving that paperwork product from you is a product. So if you're completing paperwork to be sent forward, that is a product of yours. And it needs to be of a certain quality that you are willing to attach your name to it. If you do it sloppily, if you do it incomplete, it makes it difficult for other people to do the job, and they have to track you down, and that makes them unhappy. And they think you're not a reliable and you're not a good partner to have in the organization. You have to avoid those types of activities. If you do an expense report, try to have all your receipts, and you can once in a while not have a receipt and do one by hand and put it in, and that works. But if you do too many of them, they're going to come back and balk that you're not following protocol. And they can say, no, we're not reimbursing you for that. And that can hurt So your objective here is to make sure that you are turning out the best work product you can from a manager standpoint, as well as managing the operation for the products that are going out from you, from your organization. We've had a series of calculations that we've been looking at. That can be applied to various areas of the organization. And you need to be able to do those calculations regularly to see how efficient your organization is running. And I don't care if you're the CFO or if you're over accounting or inventory control. There's some measures that are important to the business that you should, and important to you running the operation, that you should be measuring. If you're not measuring things, you're not in control of it. You only control those things to which you measure. That's a really important issue to understand. People will respond to measurements. It's a human nature thing. If you want it measured, then people will measure it and give you reports back. And so they know you're watching that area. So if you're in, let's say, inventory control might be how many products you have coming in and how many products you have going out, how many loads you've shipped out in a given day, how many loads you've serviced based upon the manpower you have going on. And the manpower becomes a big deal. They start asking for, you might be able to service 10 trucks a day with 2 guys, but could you do 12 with 2 guys? Or do you need to pay a little bit of overtime, or do you need to bring in a 3rd guy? And as a manager, you need to be able to, a manager or even a supervisor, you need to be able to answer that question for your superiors. This is what it's going to take to do this. It takes me 35 minutes to do loading of the truck that's going out of the system, and it takes me 15 minutes to do the paperwork and get that ready before I can pass it along to whoever else needs to deal with it. And so you can actually predict how many hours you're going to have during the day doing that. If you add another person, you need to be able to say, yeah, they're going to cut our time by how much faster you can get on each load. How quickly can you turn them out? Can you turn out 2 trucks at a time? Can you do 3, depending on what facilities you have available to you? Forklifts, all of those things begin to apply in there. Let's say you're working on, if you're in accounting, if you're doing collections, or if you're doing invoicing for purchasing or paying receipts, accounts receivable. If you're paying accounts receivable, how many can you process in a day? Are you getting, do the products that, the information you get from various people in the company who've received the product and said, yes, that's great, and from the vendor themselves, are you getting the information you need to be able to process it? And if you're not, how much time are you spending every day tracking that information down? That becomes an issue. And that affects how many items you can accomplish in a day. And you should be able to look, your group, you should be able to look at what everybody's doing and all the steps involved and be able to say, yep, I've got 2 people and 3 people in this department, and we're really struggling. We're not keeping up with accounts receivable or accounts payable, and you need to be able to make that adjustment. In sales, if your average salesman sells $1.5 million a year of product, and you've got the salesman out there, if you add a new salesman, how long will it be before they also do 1.5 million? What do you have to do to help them to develop their territory as a manager? All these things become critical, and as you're looking at how you measure things, it's going to be different for every department. You're not measuring the same type of activity, but what you are measuring is productivity. And the units on that productivity may be different. They may be in dollars per year, or invoices per hour, or something, trucks loaded per hour or per day, pounds shipped. All of those things, they're just different for every organization and for every operation within an organization. But you have to be able to conduct those measurements and figure out how to collect the data. And more importantly, you have to be able to determine what's the important item to be measured. If you're measuring something that's of no value, don't measure it. Measure only things that are of value. And I say that because I have been in organizations that have been collecting data for decades, and nobody in the organization remembers why they're collecting the information or what they're doing with it. And oftentimes they aren't doing anything with it, which means you're expending manpower to collect data that's not being used, which, when you think about efficiency, that's nuts. But if you try to change that system, you almost invariably get the answer, why are you collecting that piece of information? Oh, that's the way we've always done it. And I go, okay, great. What are you doing with that piece of information? Oh, I'm entering it into the computer, but who uses it? I don't know. So you try to go around and track that down, who's using it, and you find out nobody's using it. So you're paying an employee to collect data that nobody's using. And I have been shocked at organization after organization after organization that I belong to that have done that. That's why your processes need to be reviewed regularly, so that you eliminate procedures or processes that are no longer relevant to what you're doing. I was in, so when I was at King University, I was writing software. My team was writing software for various areas of the college. And I'd want to know what data they were collecting. And I would ask that question. I got that answer regularly. And I'm going, why? And they don't know. And then I'd keep going. I'd keep tracking the data, trying to find out. And I'd send out emails to people saying, do you use this piece of information? And I calculated that we were spending almost 1,000 man hours a year collecting data that nobody used. 1,000 man hours. Now, there weren't highly employed people collecting those, but that accounts for about $15,000 of expenditures that could be spent someplace else. And that's the type of thing that you want to do. You want to make your organization efficient so that you can free up capital to spend it in another place where you need it more. You need this money that's being wasted collecting useless information. I oftentimes will ask the question, why are we collecting that? And if the person I'm talking to can't answer that, then you need to track it down and find out why. And it may be a very important one, or it might be the wrong measure. Typically, what I found was that people abandoned measures that were of little value to them to manage the organization, but they didn't tell everybody else that they had done that. So you can help your organization save money and claim that savings to your credit when you find that. That's the type of thing senior management's looking at. In my last 2 years at King University, I saved the the 5-year impact after the projects we had been working on in those last 2 years, saved the school almost $1.3 million. And it fundamentally changed the organization. And those types of transformations are not very common. It's rare that you have the opportunity to do that, but you can change the organization that you belong to make it more efficient. And if everybody's working towards efficiency, you get everybody asking these questions. Should I be doing this? And you can say, I don't know. And you'll investigate. You'll get people bringing you questions, and then you go after them. Operations management is about measuring, an essential function is about measuring the organization. The problem is the manager needs to be able to define what those measurements ought to be. And maybe they need to change regularly. Are you measuring the right thing? Are you really measuring? Is it a subjective measurement, or is it an analytical measurement? Are you gathering numbers to do it, or are you looking at it and just saying, yeah, that looks pretty good? Sometimes that's all you can do, but that's not a measurement. You need to be as analytical as possible. I've been in organizations where a product was being produced, and one of the quality control functions was that they put it in a jar, they shook it up, and they held it up to the light to look at it and say, yep, that's good, no standard. So how do you get the next guy that's coming in behind you to do the same thing? And that was one of my quality control problems. Eventually, we got it standardized. So standardization becomes important for you. Let's see what else I've got here that we need to talk about today. Trying to get us caught up on this. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing all these measurements? What's the end goal?
Maximum efficiency is what I would say.
Efficiency, but efficiency gives you what in the marketplace?
It allows you to save money, which allows you to be more competitive.
It gives you the strategic advantage and makes you more competitive. You're always looking for a strategic advantage over your competition. So if you can lower your production cost, or if you can lower your administrative cost, all those costs that you drive down means that you can sell the equivalent product to the customer with the same margins that you're making now, or improved margins, and sell more of them. So I'll give you an example. When I going back to King, and I'll use it because that was the most recent employment I had. I went into admissions, and they had 9 people processing applications. 9 people. We automated that for them. We went through this whole process of, and they had 7 people that had to approve an application by a student. 7 people. I'm going, why 7 people? That's all, we've always done it that way. And I'm going, but how many do you really need? Oh, we need all 7. Why? That's because we've always done it that way. And then you need to be able to break their process apart and say, do you really need to have 7 people do this? Well, no, if we could just see it and get to it, then we don't really need an approval. Approval was just to say that we saw it. I'm going, okay, do you really need to see every one of them? No, we just need access to them. So you create that. And when I was finished, we had eliminated 5 of those approvals that were needed. And we had, although people got reassigned, we had 5 of those people's jobs were basically eliminated in that process. They did other things. Some of them left, some of them went to other parts of the college. But suddenly admissions got smaller, more efficient, and they could easily get documents. They knew where it was always consistent. They didn't have to, and this literally happened once a week. They would take a group of documents, file folders, and they would take it over to the registrar's office for the registrar's office to process them. And then sometimes it's a big cardboard box full of them. And I'm going, that's crazy. That's a lot of paper. And they're going, oh yeah, but that's the way we've always done it. And I went to the registrar and says, can we work on this? And says, oh no, we have to have the paper. And I'm going, why do you need the paper? We need the paper. That's what's required of us. Well, no, paper can also be electronic, and it took them a little while to get that. And we eliminated that whole process. So instead of getting big batches of records to process, they could do one as they came in each day. And it made the acceptance of a student much faster. So we took it from being 3 weeks in acceptance from application as minimum time, we took it down to 3 days. If the student provided all the documents at the time. So you can do that. You find ways to make your organization more efficient. It means the cost of admissions dropped at the college. Now, when that cost went down and they began to realize that after they had reassigned people and people had left, the overall cost to the university went down. Now, it means that you have more money to do one of 2 things. You could either apply it to other areas of the organization, or you could actually discount your product that you're selling and give it back to the customer. And so in every organization of King that we did that with, and I did 4 sub-organizations at King through that process, we were able to reduce the personnel requirements and make them more efficient. It was a full review of their processes and procedures. They were actually able to lower tuition 1 year and then hold it steady for the next 5 years. That's the type of thing you're looking to do. Tuitions generally don't go down at colleges. They generally only go up, generally. And so that's a competitive advantage for them. They were higher in the market than most other schools in the region, and they were able to lower that cost to make them more competitive, which increased their applications, which means they were processing more applications, more students coming through, so they were getting more efficient, so that they were getting more profitability in the process. you can have that type of impact on an organization. You can make yourself very valuable. Ask questions. Why? Try to understand how your organization is put together. Try to understand their procedures. If they have written procedures, read those written procedures. Review their flow charts. Get to know not only your department and how it relates, but how your product leaving out affects the other departments. And then ask to read their procedures if you can, to see how they use the data you're sending, because you might be able to send additional information to help them in their process. And that will make you a hero over there to be able to do that. Okay, I think we're caught up in the issues that we have not talked about over the last 4 weeks, as we're moving forward. Please review the data that I have posted to the Canvas. Just take a quick look and see what it looks like. It's the construction of a house. It's 163 steps or so involved. Go ahead and start on your critical path chart. That will be due next week. I've already posted that. You can see what the requirements are for that chart on the assignment next week. You can take a look at it. I believe it's due Friday next week. And then we're going to start working on the Gantt. We'll start doing the preparation next week on the Gantt chart. That critical path is essential for you to have as you're working on the Gantt chart. You need to be able to see what's related to the next thing. So you need to get ready on that. If you've got any questions, email me, okay, about that assignment as you're working on it. Any questions right now? Okay. No questions? Guys, I will see you on Friday. We'll be back in class. Hallelujah. Those of you who are supposed to come on Fridays, come. I want to lay eyes on you. And then the rest of you, I'll see you on Monday. Again, I want to lay eyes on you. I expect to see you there unless you are either excused because of health or sport. Any other questions? All right, guys. I will see you Friday. Bye-bye.